That's a beautiful, a beautiful thought. Yeah, that's a utopia.
I don't know.
That's a perfect thing to pass it on to Nina, who has been making films for, I mean, interestingly, Nina was my professor when I was in film school at USC, and we've both gone on and had many years of being productive. Me, for the most part, enabling male filmmakers, providing for them the conditions of possibility for them to make their work. And Nina's actually been making films, and I'd love to hear your take on everything that we're saying here, because essentially I heard you saying, Rose, that like it begins with how we learn to see. So how we learn to identify the good. Well, how are we going to see a different good if we have no exposure to that aesthetic, or there's no opportunities for those films to be made, or those films don't get seen? What would be some of the ways, I mean, could we go back and do screenings of like Dorothy Arzner films and Ida Lupino films and try to see, look at Barbara Loden, what are these women doing, what were they doing, what can we learn from them? So there's learning to see in a way, so that when you approach that stack, more things can speak to you. And then there's the issue of, when they come in, it's not like all the DVDs come in equal. I mean, there's the shortlisted and the this and the that, like how to get, without, obviously you don't want anyone in there, for like being the token woman. You don't want to have like, oh, hey, we need a woman in it, let's just take this. But there's other ways to include women beyond tokenism, I would say.
Most of the major festivals, heads of programming are men. When you talk about Berlin, Cannes, Venice, Toronto, New York Film Festival. There are 3,000 film festivals in the world, and if you go through the list and see how many women are heads of programming, not just curators. And curation is film is a dialogue with the audience, and when I see a film, based on my background, I just have a different response than somebody with a different background, whether they come from a different ethnic group, a different age, or a different gender. So.
Okay, well, so what do you think, Nina?
I could talk for about 10 hours on this
I'm
topic.
gonna give you like 4 minutes. Okay.
Well, first I just wanted to comment on what Marianne said, because I don't know if I understood this right or wrong, but you're saying that the conditions have gotten worse. The industry's in crisis, which probably means the budgets are lower, so now you have more women making the films because they're willing to work under worse conditions. Am I hearing?
Not only the worst conditions, but I think they are that they can create things. They are more creative and finding ways of making films. Like we have a woman producer here, a very young Egyptian woman producer who was sitting right there, who produced Yomedin, which was in competition last year. And so this is, okay, she studied in the States, all right, but she has the strength, she has the capacity to create. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
it's very hard.
I just was wondering if it's one of those things. I know in Russia, there was a time where all doctors were male and all nurses were female. It's still more or less that way in the United States. And then when women started becoming doctors, the status of being a doctor went down. So, it's a complicated, and we're caught in webs of ideology, as Foucault says, that are really intense, and they're so deep and they're so ingrained, whether it's on a very deep level of shot design and visual language, stories, what we're taught to understand who is the subject and who is an object, the deep indoctrination, if we're shown films by the masters like John Ford and Martin Scorsese, and we're told this is a masterpiece, and then you, as film students, and then we sort of just block out how the women are treated in those films, and we try to just look at the filmmaking and say, yeah, it's really good filmmaking, I won't pay attention to this over here. Oh, it's such a complicated issue, and it's so layered, and it's so marbled. I feel like it marbles our consciousness on so many levels that do digging yourself out is very hard. You know, it's on the level of financing, it's on the level of distribution, it's on the level of film festival selection and which films are bought and so on and so on and so on, right? So I think it's just really important to remember when we say good film. You know, normally most of us will feel a film is good when we somehow relate to it, or we find ourselves in it in some way, where the film speaks to us in some way. Well, you know, if you're a white heterosexual male, you know, you're gonna have a different kind of film speak to you than me, right? And so that definition, what is good? What is good is ideologically determined, not only, but strongly.
And